Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. Got a nice quick air conditioning case study for you. As well, I'm trying out a new format. The shop that I work in, it's just the boss and me. Super busy. It's pretty hard to pull out the camera for a lot of the cars that come through. Some of them just don't have time, just have to get the job done. But some of them could make interesting videos. So what I'm trying to do for those ones that I otherwise don't have time to do the full recording is just kind of piece together stuff as I go along, make little clips, make pictures, the captures, screen recordings, all that sort of stuff, and then just tie it together. At least that way I can put something out and make a presentation, kind of show off what I learned, what that particular vehicle was, on jobs that I wouldn't otherwise be able to make a full video. I am still trying to do the live videos, I'm staying late, coming in on my days off, that sort of thing. But there are a lot of cars that come through that I just would not have time for. So I'm gonna try this method. Hopefully it works out. I feel like a lot of these other cars, there are things that could be learned from them, and I'd like to share my experiences, and hopefully we can all learn some stuff together. By all means, feel free if there's something about any of these, just leave a comment, drop me a line. I try to read them all. I try to respond as much as I can. But yeah, without further ado, we got a 2016 Hyundai Sonata. Came in, no air conditioning. The boss gave it a quick look and saw that the compressor clutch wasn't kicking in. So then sent it to me to figure out why. So that's all we know. So moving forward, usually what I start with is just activate the controls and see if we can hear the compressor clutch kicking in. So we'll just push the button. Now from the video, being inside the car, it'd be pretty hard to hear it if the clutch was kicking in. It wouldn't show up on video that well. In the car you would hear it. You'd know. You'd hear the click, you'd hear the kind of the whine of the engine as it drags down a little bit. In this case I didn't hear anything, but we did see the light for the air conditioning did kick on as I pushed the button, so at least we knew that part was working, and we'll just carry on. With air conditioning, I find that the number one reason that air conditioning doesn't work is just low refrigerant. It's leaked out. It will naturally leak out over 8 to 10 years or so. That's considered normal. Otherwise, you might have a line or rock hits the condenser, something happens and it just kind of leaks out. But number one cause, low refrigerant. The second number one cause, sorry for the British folks, second cause of air conditioning not working, I find is faulty compressors. So now we need to go out, and what I'll do is I'll hook up the gauges, give it a quick look. This is with the vehicle running. So we can see here's on the low side, here's 90 psi. On the high side, this is a little harder to see, it's a bit of a glare. This is 100 right here, this is 50. So yeah, we're just below 90, 80 or so psi. We see both needles are stationary. We don't see them move at all, so we do know that means since they're both staying the same, the compressor is not pumping anything. As well, with these pressures, that would be more than enough to allow the compressor to operate. That's not necessarily to say that we couldn't have a control issue, but we do know that that's more than enough pressure in that system that if everything else were working fine, that compressor should be kicking in. Now we don't know if that's enough, if that's a full charge. Once we fix the compressor issue, we will go through and do a full evac and recharge service to at least bring it up to the proper level. We don't want to have a bad component, fix that, and then 3 months later the air conditioning starts blowing warm because it was a low anyways. Of course we'll top it up once it's done, but we know that our air conditioning charge is not our issue. There is enough in there, it should be kicking on. So we'll go around, we'll take a peek. So right here are the face of the compressor. The hub that's splined to the input shaft of the compressor is not turning with the pulley. As we saw with our pressures are stationary, they're not moving, so we know that compressor is not moving. In a normal working system, with the compressor being turned on, you'll see that face there move, but it's not moving. So we'll carry on. Quickest thing to do on these, I'll usually scan the codes. Being an 06, it's unlikely to find anything necessarily pertinent on the scan tool, but you know what, as I'm starting the vehicle, as I'm kind of going around, you be quiet. I'll hook up the scan tool, I'll just start a code scan, and then I'll come back to it once it's finished. We look, shush. I was just trying to make a video. So on the list of modules, we don't see an HVAC module. So if we don't see an HVAC module, it's very unlikely to see any data at all that's going to help us out. But I'll just give it a quick look of codes. And looking at the codes, sure enough, we don't see anything. We do see a bunch of interesting codes, but you know what? It's had bad battery in it, so and none of those have anything to do with the air conditioning. So we'll move on. But I always like to check codes because you never know what if you have something in there that you could have a control circuit issue or something. Just it doesn't take very long to give it a quick scan, but we don't see anything, so we move on. What I'll always start off with is the wiring diagrams. I find it's the quickest way to get the full picture without going through a whole bunch of really wordy flow charts. And I'll just look through the wiring diagram for the HVAC circuit, and I'll look, in this case, since the compressor is not turning on, I'll start just by finding the compressor. So I'll just start kind of looking through anything that says compressor. So we go down to this page, we go down, and here we are, AC compressor, top front convention. So the symbol at the bottom, that means it's case grounded. This being case grounded, since it has such a large mounting surface, your case ground is going to be fine. The vehicle starts and runs, so we know there's no main block ground issue, otherwise the vehicle wouldn't start. So we won't have to worry about a ground in this case. Some might have a separate ground. This one does not, just has a single wire. So that will be our power feed going to the coil that creates the magnetic field that locks the hub to the pulley. So we'll follow that back, and it comes up, 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 straight through to the air conditioning relay. So there's nothing in between. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find the AC compressor on the vehicle. Hopefully it's accessible. And I'm just going to go straight here and see if I got power there. And here's our compressor. It is accessible on this vehicle, thankfully. So I'm just going to peel back. There's a little bit of plastic on the end, on these Hyundais, on the end of the connector. There's a plastic shell over the connector. I just pop it off, and then it exposes the wire nicely, and I can put a either back probe or a piercing probe on there. If I put a piercing probe, I always go through it afterwards, clean it up. You don't want an exposed wire. But yeah, I'm just gonna tie into that circuit right there and see if I have power. So we got two different options. We can either use the vehicle itself, fire it up, turn the air conditioning on, or in this case, I'll use a scan tool to command the air conditioning relay on, the AC compressor relay on. And going back to that wiring diagram, if we turn on the air conditioning relay, it should directly send power down to that compressor. So by doing this method, then I don't have to worry about belts spinning, I don't have to worry about the noise of the engine, I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. However, I do have to keep in mind we are using a scan tool, so there's an extra variable there. I'm pushing a button on the scan tool, I'm assuming that scan tool is programmed properly, that it will properly pass that command on to the vehicle's engine computer, and that engine computer will understand that message, agree with that, and allow that command to pass on. Sometimes that's not the case, and you don't always get an error message on your scan tool. So it's always a good idea to do in these cases is if you try to bidirectionally command something on, if I were to see my test light, then okay, yes, I can take that and realize that yes, the scan tool did pass that on. But if I don't see my test light, rather than immediately jumping down and assuming that there's a control issue, I want to rule out the possibility first of the scan tool just not properly passing that command on. So if I don't see the test light, then I'll go into the car, start it up, turn the air conditioning on, and see if the test light still doesn't light. If it still doesn't light, then yes, we do know that we would have a control issue at that point. But if we get in the vehicle, start it up, turn the air conditioning on, and we do see it light, then that's our scan tool not passing that on. It's a good idea to always check your equipment, because that can get you burnt. Usually for these though, just simple relay on-off tests, usually they work, but still keep that in the back of your mind. Just because you push something on a scan tool does not mean your car is actually going to be doing that. So we'll go in the test. We'll hit the start, and we see our test light blinking on and off. Some of these tests, when you turn them on, they'll send a constant power. Some will just do a toggle mode, on off, on off, on off. That way, under toggle mode, you can kind of see if the relay's able to open, close consistently rather than just a solid time. So if you see your test light blinking on and off like this, yeah, that's just gonna be your scan tool. But we do see that there's power making down there. So really at that point, that's pretty well good enough. You need a compressor. It has everything it needs. It's not turning. It's all integral to the compressor. We don't really get clutches anymore. It's kind of, you got a problem with that, you sort of get the whole compressor. If this were your own car and it's hard to get a compressor or is really expensive, then and you had the time to look online for just a clutch and a coil, yeah, you could replace it. But there's one other thing we'll do that I like to do. We'll shut the test off, wait for the test to finish. So now that side of the circuit is turned off. So the power side will just be an open circuit. So I'll take my test light that was on battery negative, because we were looking for power. I'll now move it over to battery positive. And we look at our test light, and our test light is not lighting. Now, normally this test light should be lighting right now, because let's think about that. The compressor relay is off, but that the other side of that coil is attached to a full-time ground. So our test light should be reading that full ground through the coil windings. Because it has to go through the coil windings, the test light might be a little bit dimmer, but that test light should still light. The fact that it's not lighting tells us we have an open circuit in the coil. It can't send power through. So just a quick little thing, makes us feel even better that yes, in fact, we do have a bad compressor. Nothing to do but pull out the refrigerant, and change that compressor. And it's getting to be summertime, so yeah, I ended up doing 3 compressors that day. Some days it's just you get the same job over and over and over. So new compressors in. We always like to, after we do the full evac and recharge, check the pressures, make sure everything's running as it should be. You know, make sure that the fan's kicking in, the condenser is not plugged, all that sort of thing. So we're running it off. We're running the vehicle right now. Our high side, here's 150, here's 200. So it's around 180 or so. And our low side is right at 30. And you'll notice our needles are staying perfectly steady. There's 2 different types of compressors. There is the old school style, the cycling clutch style. And then there's the new style. Pretty much every vehicle that's out there nowadays is going to be a new style where it's a variable displacement compressor. Usually what they'll have is they'll have some kind of metering valve in there. And this is what you'll see on a variable displacement. You'll see both of the needles perfectly steady. Usually the low side, you'll see right around the 30 psi, and the high side anywhere from 150 to 250 or so, depending upon the temperature. Usually I found on these the low side doesn't change too much, depending upon outside conditions, atmospherics and stuff. Usually it's just the high side. But still, these are good readings. You'll see that they stay nice and steady. If it were an old style, the cycling clutch, they didn't have metering controls. The compressor didn't have the capability of varying its output, so it was an on-off system. The compressor would kick in, then the low side would go down as the high side would come up, and then once they reached too much of a threshold, then the compressor would kick off, they'd come back closer together, then the compressor would kick on, and they'd spread apart, and it would just go over and over and over and over and over. Variable displacement, you see them nice and steady, just like this. And then just to confirm, we'll take a peek down there with the new compressor, and we can see the front face of the compressor is turning. So the hub is the hub is pulled in, and it is being locked. The clutch is being locked to the pulley, so that is in fact turning the shaft. If we go back to our pictures here, our compressor on the left, when I went out to look at that vehicle to find out why it wasn't working, if the compressor is right there, usually what I'll do is just as a quick 5-second test, I'll just grab that front face, which will be right around here. I'll just grab that. I should be able to turn that. You won't be able to turn the inner part because the belt's on, but the front face should turn. If you can't turn it when the vehicle's off, then you know that compressor is seized. So I tried that on this one, and the hub just came off of my hand. But you can see right here, there's the pulley. That will be an either type pulley, just freewheeling pulley with a belt. It's attached to this hub here, the face, and then the hub goes on the outside. And the hub is just like a pressure plate in a standard clutch. It's kind of spring loaded, where its tension is pulling out. As soon as power goes to that coil, creates magnetic field, pulls it in, slams the two together, and then they both turn as one, and it'll turn the shaft on the inside, which actually turns the compressor, and then the compressor can start doing its pumping. So back with our replacement, we take a peek down there, we do see it is in fact turning, and of course it is blowing nice and cold. This one was nice, quick and easy, and that's all there is to it. To a lot of these, you know what, you just go after the common cause. If you can, go straight down to that compressor, see if you got power. No sense checking relays, no sense swapping relays, checking fuses, any of that sort of stuff. If you see power down on that compressor, it's that simple. You need a compressor. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You know, any comments, anything that you feel you can contribute, yeah, please leave a comment. And thanks for watching. Till the next time.